Afghanistan's victory against England by 8 runs has really opened Group B up in the ICC Champions Trophy 2025. The match that we witnessed in Lahore, which saw over 640 runs being scored, 642 to be precise, for the loss of these many wickets, has ensured that Afghanistan have stayed alive in the ICC Champions Trophy. Because the 8-run win has ensured that South Africa, Australia and Afghanistan are the only teams in the fray for 2 spots. England joined Pakistan and Bangladesh as the only other teams to have been eliminated from the ICC Champions Trophy. Now, the scenarios for Group B are very, very different because Group A is done and dusted. India and New Zealand have qualified without even much of a complication. But the last 2 games that are there in Group B, which is Australia versus Afghanistan and England versus South Africa, they hold the key. Not so much this game, but February 28th will determine who are your 2 semi-finalists in the ICC Champions Trophy. Because Australia and Afghanistan, that washout that happened in Rawalpindi will now complicate matters even further. Because what is the situation now in Group B? England officially eliminated, 3 teams to battle for 2 semi-final spots. And as I mentioned, they are South Africa, Australia and Afghanistan. Now, what is South Africa's scenario for the semi-final in the ICC Champions Trophy? The first major thing that they have is better net run rate. So, the better net run rate will ensure if they win versus England, semi-final is sealed. There is no complication in that. Now, if RSA lose their last game to England, but because they are playing last in Group B, if Australia beat Afghanistan, then South Africa are through. Because if RSA lose to England, it doesn't matter. Australia have beaten Afghanistan and that is why they'll get to 5 points. No other team can get to 4 points then. England will get to 2 if they beat South Africa and Afghanistan will remain on 2 if they lose to Australia. So that is why if South Africa lose, Australia must beat Afghanistan. Now, what about Australia? Australia have to win versus Afghanistan. If they win, they are through. But if they lose, they must hope that England absolutely hammers South Africa by a margin of 85 or 100 runs. They have to hope that RSA lose to England badly in the last encounter. Somewhere in the range of 85 to 100 runs. But if they lose, Australia must not lose by a big margin. They have to lose by a small margin. But if that happens, they have to hope England thrash or South Africa by a margin of say 85 or 100 runs or maybe by 10 wickets. Chase it down in fewer overs, whatever comes first. So that is why Australia, it is very, very simple. Win and they go through. Lose, they have to hope England thrash South Africa. Afghanistan. Win versus Australia, they are through. Because Australia will remain on 3 points, they'll be in second position. If they lose, they'll be eliminated. Very simple equation now for Afghanistan. If Afghanistan beat Australia, Australia are eliminated. If they lose, they are eliminated. So that is why now Australia's game, the February 28th game, is going to be a crunch game for these 2 teams. Now, what will happen if it's a washout? Supposing Afghanistan versus Australia is a washout, then what happens? Australia get to 4 points, Afghanistan will get to 3 points. Afghanistan eliminated. Australia and South Africa will go through. If it's a washout in Lahore, and luckily the weather in Lahore is not looking all that bleak, it is looking good. So that's why you might see a full game. But Rawalpindi, things are looking bleak there. So that's why you are expecting a total washout tomorrow if that happens. So it is very, very simple. Afghanistan, if they beat Australia, are through, and if they lose, they are out. For Australia, if they beat Afghanistan, they are through to the semi-finals. If they lose, they have to hope South Africa lose by 100 plus runs to England. For South Africa, it is very simple for them. Even if they lose by a smaller margin, then also they may be safe. But if Australia win, then they go through. So it's very, very simple of what Group B is happening at this point in time. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this video. Subscribe to Sports Today for all the latest news and analysis.